Hello there, my name is Balliett and I play bassoon in the Princeton Symphony Orchestra. The bassoon is a woodwind instrument, meaning that I use my air to play the instrument, and I sit in the back of the orchestra with the flutes and the clarinets and the oboes, the other woodwind instruments. Now that music that you heard me playing at the beginning there is from a piece called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. And that's one of the things that the bassoon is really good at, playing a lot of short and bouncy notes like you hear there. It creates an almost funny kind of sound. But you may be looking at me playing The Sorcerer's Apprentice and saying, but I can't even see your whole instrument. I'm only seeing this little bit of it. That's true. This is a large instrument, and it's so big it barely even fits on my video screen here. So let's trace the entire length of the bassoon starting here with this piece. This piece is called the reed, and it's very important. I'm going to come back to it in a few minutes. But for now, let's see. When I blow into the reed, where does the air go? It goes through this metal tube and down into this wooden tube, one of the pieces of the bassoon, and you can see here are the holes where I put my fingers, very much like the holes on a recorder that you might play. So it keeps going down to this bottom piece here, and oh my goodness, it keeps on going down to here. Now what happens here? I'll show you. The tube bends in a circle around and keeps going up this way. Keeps going, back up to the other side, up this longer wooden tube, and finally all the way up and out the end of the bassoon. You can look in there and see what the inside of the bassoon looks like. Now you probably know that the bigger and longer an instrument is, the lower its sound is going to be. So the bassoon can play pretty low. In fact, it's the lowest woodwind in the whole orchestra. My favorite thing to do on the bassoon is to sing the melody, the main part of the music, in a way and try to make it sound almost like a person singing. Here's a melody that's very much like that from Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 4. Now, I showed you before how the bassoon can play very low, but the bassoon can play very high as well, especially for such a big instrument. I can think of a piece by a composer named Stravinsky, who started off a whole piece with one bassoon alone playing in the top register. This is what that sounded like. Well, I wanted to come back to this piece right here, this special piece of the bassoon, which is called the reed. And this is a part, it's kind of like my voice box. It's where all of the sound starts on the bassoon. And it's made of wood, but it's made of a special kind of wood called cane. And I make these reeds myself, and I start with the cane as it grows right from the ground. It looks almost like bamboo this way, doesn't it? But it's actually a really thick piece of grass. And it's the same idea as if you were to take a piece of grass between your thumbs, nice and tight, blow against it, and you'll get a sound like, it's really fun in the summer. Do it right next to your parents. They love it. These two pieces of cane are going to vibrate against each other and make a crazy sound. the earliest bassoons were really made this way, with people out in the fields carving their reeds out of grass, and then they would play on their instruments and make up tunes for the sky and the hills, or for their animals that were out in the fields, things like that. The earliest bassoons were like that, and that inspired me. So the last thing I want to share with you is a piece of music that I wrote, imagining that I was one of these ancient people that was living out in the grassy areas with hills and big skies and animals. And as I'm playing this tune, I want you to think about, what sort of music would you write if you were out in a big countryside with rolling hills and a wide sky? So if you have ideas on the music that you would write if you were playing for some rolling hills and big sky, tell your teachers, send them an email or let them know, and they will pass that along to us here at the Princeton Symphony. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you next time at the Princeton Symphony Orchestra.